The wind howled across the desolate Andean Mountain Research Station, whipping snow against the reinforced glass windows. Dr. Nora Reese adjusted her thermal gear, her breath creating small clouds in the frigid air. The isolation of the remote research facility was both a blessing and a curse. Perfect for her groundbreaking xenobiological research, yet emotionally taxing after months of solitude. Outside, the research station stood as a beacon of human technological resilience. Constructed from advanced composite materials that could withstand extreme temperatures and terrain, it was a testament to human engineering. Solar panels and wind turbines provided sustainable energy, while advanced communication systems kept Nora connected to the outside world, albeit tenuously. On this particular night, something was different. The atmospheric sensors began to flicker unexpectedly, creating a pattern of interference that caught Nora's attention. As a scientist specializing in extraterrestrial research, she was trained to notice anomalies. Her hand moved instinctively to the communication console, fingers hovering over the emergency broadcast system. A sudden impact shook the entire structure. The sound was unlike anything Nora had heard before, a combination of metallic stress and an otherworldly resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very foundation of the building. Her scientific training battled with a primal sense of fear as she approached the observation window. Through the swirling snow, a shape emerged. It was not human, nor was it any terrestrial vehicle. The object, clearly a damaged spacecraft, had created a significant impact crater in the snow-covered mountainside. Its exterior was unlike any technology Nora had ever documented, with fluid-like metallic surfaces that seemed to shimmer and shift even as they lay damage. Nora's first instinct was scientific curiosity. Her second was survival. She checked the station's defensive systems, ensuring the airlock and protective shields were fully operational. The research station was designed to be a safe haven in extreme conditions, but this was beyond any scenario she had trained for. As the snow began to settle, a figure emerged from the wreckage. Tall and distinctly non-human, the being moved with a combination of grace and evident injury. Its body seemed to refract light in unusual ways, a biological camouflage mechanism that spoke to advanced evolutionary adaptations. The alien, for there was no other word for it, looked directly at the research station. Nora felt a moment of profound connection, a sense that this was more than just a chance encounter. Years of research, countless theories, and endless nights of speculation had prepared her for this moment. Her communication systems crackled to life, not with human signals, but with a complex series of electromagnetic pulses that her advanced linguistic analysis software began to decode. It was a distress signal, but more than that, it was a plea for understanding. Zoran, the name would later be learned, was a scout from the Krail civilization, a species far more advanced than humanity yet facing an existential crisis. Their mission of exploration had gone terribly wrong, and now survival depended on an unlikely alliance with a human scientist in the most remote location on Earth. Nora's hand hovered over the emergency release. Protocol suggested containment, quarantine, maximum security precautions, but something in her scientific intuition, and perhaps something deeper, told her this was a moment that could change everything. The station's external lights illuminated the damaged spacecraft, revealing intricate details of technology that would revolutionize human understanding of interstellar travel. Zoran stood motionless, waiting, the first true representative of an alien civilization, to make direct contact with humanity. In that moment, suspended between scientific breakthrough and potential first contact, Dr. Nora Reese made a decision that would alter the course of human history. Would she open the airlock? Would she make first contact? The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, waiting for a single human's choice. The decision to open the airlock was not made lightly. Dr. Nora Reese ran a series of rapid diagnostic scans, analyzing every possible biological and technological risk. The alien, Zoran, remained motionless, seemingly aware of the scrutiny from within the research station. Hours passed. The communication systems continued to pulse with complex signals that gradually became more decipherable. Nora's linguistic analysis software worked overtime, gradually translating fragments of what appeared to be a distress communication. Words emerged. Concepts of survival, of a mission gone critically wrong, of a desperate need for assistance. As the mountain night deepened, the temperature dropped further. Zoran's body began to show signs of environmental stress. The alien's unique physiological makeup, designed for a completely different planetary environment, was struggling against the extreme Andean conditions. Nora watched the readings carefully. The alien's body temperature was dropping dangerously low. Her scientific training battled with a growing sense of humanitarian concern. This was more than just a research subject. This was a sentient being in potential mortal danger. Communication protocol initiated. She murmured to herself, activating a series of protective measures. The airlock's inner chamber began to adjust its atmospheric composition, creating a neutral environment that might be compatible with Zoran's biological needs. The first physical contact was tentative. As the airlock cycled, Nora approached wearing a full-body protective suit, designed to minimize potential biological contamination while allowing maximum mobility. Zoran remained still, allowing the scan systems to probe and analyze. "Can you understand me?" Nora's voice was calm, professional. To her surprise, the alien responded, not with words, but with a series of complex bioluminescent patterns that rippled across its body. The research station's advanced translation systems began to parse the communication, a language of light and subtle electromagnetic frequencies. Initial communication revealed a critical situation. Zoran's spacecraft had been damaged during a reconnaissance mission. The Krail civilization, a space-faring species with technology centuries beyond human capabilities, had lost contact with this scout ship. More importantly, Zoran carried critical information about a potential galactic threat that could impact multiple civilizations. "Your mission?" Nora probed carefully. What was its purpose? The light patterns became more intense, revealing fragments of a complex narrative. The civilization on the brink of destruction. A desperate mission to find potential allies. And now, stranded on an alien world with a single human as the only hope of survival. The research station became a makeshift medical facility. Nora utilized her xenobiological expertise to create an environment that could sustain Zoran. Advanced medical nanites, experimental technology she had been developing, were carefully deployed to stabilize the alien's condition. As hours turned into days, an unlikely alliance began to form. Zoran's communication became more refined. The alien shared glimpses of its civilization, a society built on collective knowledge, technological symbiosis, and a philosophy of universal interconnectedness. Nora discovered that Zoran was more than just a scout. The alien was a repository of scientific knowledge, carrying data that could revolutionize human understanding of physics, biology, and interstellar travel. But danger loomed. The communication patterns suggested that Zoran's mission was critical. Something was coming. A threat that transcended individual species, a challenge that would require unprecedented cooperation. The Mountain Research Station, once a symbol of human isolation, had become the potential birthplace of a much larger story. A story of survival, a story of unexpected alliance. A story that would challenge everything humanity understood about its place in the universe. As the Andean winds continued to howl outside, two beings from different worlds began to forge a connection that would change everything. The research station hummed with an electric tension of discovery. Days of careful communication had revealed increasingly complex layers of Zoran's mission. Nora's computer screens were filled with intricate holographic projections, fragments of star charts, planetary configurations, and technological schematics that defied human scientific understanding. "This is beyond anything we've ever conceptualized," Nora murmured, tracing the luminescent star map that Zoran had gradually reconstructed. The alien's ability to translate complex astronomical data was nothing short of miraculous. The star map revealed a network of civilizations far more interconnected than humanity had ever imagined. Zoran explained through a combination of bioluminescent communication and advanced translation algorithms that the Krail civilization was part of a delicate galactic ecosystem, one that was now under threat. A massive holographic projection emerged in the center of the research station's main laboratory. Planetary systems danced in intricate orbital patterns, revealing a cosmic conflict that had been brewing for generations. The threat was not a simple invasion or territorial dispute, but something far more complex, a systemic breakdown of the galactic communication network that maintained peace between multiple civilizations. Nora's scientific mind raced. "How long has this been developing?" she asked, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Zoran's response came in a cascade of light patterns that the translation system interpreted. Centuries, perhaps millennia. A slow-building tension that had been carefully managed through complex diplomatic networks was now unraveling. The most critical piece of information emerged gradually. The Krail had been searching for potential allies, civilizations with the adaptability, creativity, and resilience to help prevent a complete systemic collapse. And somehow, against all probability, their search had led them to this remote research station in the Andean Mountains. "We need to understand the full context," Nora said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing concern. The star map continued to rotate, revealing hidden connections, potential conflict zones, and intricate pathways of communication. Zoran shared fragments of technological knowledge. Quantum communication systems that could bridge vast interstellar distances, energy transfer technologies that could revolutionize human understanding of physics, biological adaptation techniques that could protect entire planetary populations from emerging cosmic threats. But each revelation came with a warning. The information was dangerous. If discovered by the wrong parties, it could trigger exactly the kind of conflict the Krail were trying to prevent. As the day progressed, Nora realized they were no longer just researcher and subject. They had become something else, collaborators in a mission that could determine the fate of multiple civilizations. The research station's communication systems began to show unusual activity. Something was approaching. Whether it was a follow-up to Zoran's mission or something more threatening remained unclear. "We need a plan," Nora said, her scientific training shifting into strategic mode. The star map continued to rotate, a silent witness to the growing tension. Outside, the Andean mountains stood as silent guardians. Inside, two beings from different worlds prepared to face a challenge that would test the very limits of scientific understanding and interspecial cooperation. The next move would be critical. The research station's advanced detection systems began to pulse with an intensity that set Nora's nerves on edge. Something was approaching, something that defied conventional tracking methods. Zoran's body language changed, the bioluminescent patterns becoming more erratic, communicating a sense of mounting tension. "Incoming transmission," the station's AI announced, its usually calm voice tinged with an almost imperceptible note of concern. Nora's fingers flew across the holographic interface, activating multiple layers of defensive protocols. The Andean Mountain Research Station, once a sanctuary of scientific exploration, was rapidly transforming into a potential frontline of an interstellar conflict. The incoming signal was unlike any communication protocol Nora had encountered. It wasn't just a message. It was a complex quantum transmission that seemed to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional frequencies. Zoran moved closer to the primary communication array, the alien's body acting as a kind of biological translator. "They're hunting," Zoran communicated through a series of light pulses that the translation system struggled to fully decode. "The Void Collective doesn't tolerate independent scouts." The holographic displays began to populate with increasingly complex threat assessments. What had begun as a potential scientific discovery was rapidly evolving into something far more dangerous. The Void Collective, a name that sent a chill through Nora's scientific rationality, represented a civilization that operated on principles completely alien to human understanding. Outside, the mountain landscape began to change. The very air seemed to shimmer, molecular structures bending in ways that defied natural physics. Zoran's warning became clear. This was no ordinary pursuit. This was an existential threat that could potentially compromise not just the research station, but potentially the entire planet. "We need to create a quantum interference field," Zoran explained, the translation system struggling to convey the full complexity of the proposed defense mechanism. Nora understood enough to know this was beyond current human technological capabilities. The research station's systems began to react. Advanced quantum computing arrays that Nora had been developing for years suddenly found a purpose far beyond their original design. The station itself seemed to be transforming, adaptive technologies responding to the imminent threat. A series of energy signatures began to build. The Void Collective's approach was methodical, precise, a hunting technique that suggested they could deconstruct and analyze entire planetary systems with clinical efficiency. Nora realized they were no longer just protecting Zoran. They were protecting something far more significant: the potential for future interspecies cooperation, the very hope of humanity's expansion beyond its current limitations. "We're going to need to be creative," Nora said, her scientific mind racing through potential scenarios. Zoran's bioluminescent patterns suggested agreement, a subtle dance of light that spoke of shared determination. The first wave of the Void Collective's approach became visible, not as a conventional spacecraft, but as a distortion in the fabric of space-time itself. The Andean mountains seemed to bend, reality itself becoming malleable. "Quantum shielding activating," the station's AI announced. Nora and Zoran stood side by side, two beings from entirely different worlds, united by a common goal. The research station became more than just a scientific outpost. It was now the potential first line of defense against a threat that could consume entire civilizations. The conflict was about to begin. The moment of confrontation arrived with a silence more profound than any sound. The Void Collective's approach manifested as a ripple in reality, a distortion that threatened to unravel the very fabric of existence. Inside the research station, Dr. Nora Reese and Zoran stood as unlikely guardians of not just a planet, but potentially an entire galactic ecosystem. Quantum shielding activated in layers, each system pushing against the invasive dimensional intrusion. The station's advanced technologies, combined with Zoran's alien knowledge, created a defensive network that defied conventional understanding of physics and protection. "Adaptation is our only strategy," Zoran communicated through intricate light patterns that danced across the alien's body. The translation systems worked overtime, converting complex quantum communication into something Nora could comprehend. The first wave of the Void Collective's assault came not as a physical attack, but as a systematic attempt to deconstruct the station's molecular structure. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist, with the Andean mountain landscape becoming a canvas of impossible geometries and shifting perspectives. Nora's scientific training kicked into overdrive. Years of research, countless theoretical models, and her innate human adaptability became their greatest weapon. She began to recognize patterns in the Void Collective's approach, not as a destructive force, but as a form of advanced reconnaissance that sought to understand rather than simply destroy. "They're studying us," Nora realized, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing tension. "This isn't a conventional attack. It's a form of intelligence gathering." Zoran's response came in a cascade of bioluminescent communication that suggested agreement. The Void Collective represented a form of civilization so advanced that their concept of conflict was fundamentally different from human or Krail understanding. The research station became a crucible of interspecies cooperation. Zoran's alien technologies merged with Nora's human innovations, creating a defensive network that was more than the sum of its parts. Quantum computing arrays began to generate complex interference patterns, pushing back against the dimensional intrusion. Hours passed, or perhaps moments. Time itself became fluid, a concept manipulated by the ongoing confrontation. The Void Collective's approach was methodical, probing, searching for any weakness in their defensive network. But they had not anticipated human creativity. Nora began to introduce deliberately imperfect variables into their quantum defense system, small, almost imperceptible irregularities that made their protective network unpredictable, impossible to fully analyze. "Chaos is our advantage," she murmured, watching as the station's systems responded in ways that defied the Void Collective's computational models. Zoran's bioluminescent patterns suggested a form of excitement. This was precisely why the Krail had been searching for potential allies, species with the ability to introduce unexpected variables into seemingly predetermined systems. The final confrontation came not as a moment of violent resolution, but as a gradual withdrawal. The Void Collective's dimensional probe began to retract, unable to fully comprehend or categorize the defensive network they had encountered. As the last quantum distortions faded, Nora and Zoran found themselves in a transformed landscape. The research station had become something more than a scientific outpost. It was now a testament to the potential of interspecies cooperation. "We survived," Nora said, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Zoran's response came through a complex series of light patterns that the translation system interpreted as something between celebration and profound respect. The Andean mountains stood as silent witnesses. Humanity had passed a critical test, not through overwhelming force, but through creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to understand the unknown.